My sugar daddy once said I was the only pure white jasmine in the entertainment industry. Because I never fought or schemed. I was obedient, sensible, and wholeheartedly devoted to him. But lately, he's been particularly fond of the gaudy, showy peony, so he gave the 2 endorsements and 1 movie he had originally promised me to his new favorite. Many people in the circle were waiting to see me humiliated, but I only let out a long sigh of relief. Finally, I had a reason to change sugar daddies, and my new sugar daddy had already been growing impatient. Chapter 1. When my assistant called me crying, I was in the middle of getting my hair and makeup done for that night's charity gala. Maria was sobbing as she spoke. The brand said it was at Mr. Phillips' request. The dress has to go to Laura. Laura was Philip's new favorite, and she had set her eyes on the haute couture Ellie had lent me for the season. Philip was infatuated with her, so of course he did whatever she wanted. He said, "It's Laura's first time attending an event of this scale. She wants to make a good impression. It's just a dress. Tiffany, be the bigger person." He knew full well that tonight, a director I greatly valued would be attending. I had started preparing a month in advance just to leave him with a good impression. But Philip didn't care. Perhaps I had acted too well all these years. He was certain that I loved him to the bone, that I couldn't live without him. So he was utterly unscrupulous. He was used to my sensibility and constant concessions, so it never even crossed his mind whether I might be embarrassed or laughed at. I immediately had my agent contact every major brand. She mass sent requests to more than a dozen, but not a single one could lend me a dress. In our circle, the gossip that my gown had been snatched right before the gala spread quickly. Some people came over with fake sympathy. "Tiffany, if it's too late, there's nothing you can do. There'll be other chances. It's just a pity that director Dong is the finale guest tonight. I heard he's also looking for the female lead for his new movie." After thinking for a moment, I dialed Claude's number. Then, under the gazes of pity or schadenfreude, I quietly waited for 3 hours. Just as I was about to call it a night, Claude's secretary arrived with a gown. It was an off-season haute couture piece from Ellie, unfortunately. Not exactly my style. That night, Laura wore the gradient blue starlight gown encrusted with 1,000 diamonds and stole the entire spotlight. Before the gala even ended, press releases with the hashtag living human peony hashtag about her crushing beauty were flooding the feeds. Maria was indignant. "Tiffany, you would have looked so much better in that dress." Not long after, those words reached Laura's ears. She approached me with a glass of champagne, raising an eyebrow. I heard Tiffany wanted to wear my dress too. But Mr. Phillips said only a fresh, tender young girl like me can pull off the starry fairy look. She deliberately gave me a slow once-over. "Tiffany, you'll be 30 in 2 years, right? A woman has to accept getting old." I smiled gently. 28 isn't considered young in the entertainment industry. "That's true. I just hope little sister Laura never reaches my age." Laura froze, probably still trying to figure out what I meant. I had already given a polite nod and walked backstage. By the time she processed it and texted me to curse me out, I had returned to my apartment, removed my makeup, and was about to take a shower. After reading her message, I clicked my tongue. Philip's new favorite was beautiful. Sure, pity she didn't have much of a brain. Chapter 2. I was blow-drying my hair after a shower when Maria's messages came in one after another. She said a brand endorsement we had already secured had been snatched by Laura, and for the drama I was set to join tomorrow, Laura had been inserted into the cast. They said she was the second female lead, but her scenes were no fewer than mine. To be fair, Philip was a decent sugar daddy. When he was infatuated with someone, he'd bring her the best of everything without hesitation. I'd enjoyed that treatment myself. Otherwise, I couldn't have gone from a complete nobody to a top-tier starlet in just 5 years. But his affection was fleeting. I'd seen plenty of people who genuinely fell for him, and none of them ended well. Once, someone tearfully asked me, "Tiffany, teach me, how do you tolerate the endless stream of women around him?" I silently handed her a tissue, probably because I never expected his genuine love in the first place. Chapter 3. I learned at a very young age. True love is the most unreliable thing in the world. My mother was tricked by something she called true love. She spent her life as someone's mistress, yet firmly believed she was his great romance. She always told me that one day, my biological father would arrive in a Maybach to take her away. that he would acknowledge us as part of his family. When I was little, I believed her. I waited wholeheartedly for my father to come pick me up, until the day my mother took me to kneel before my aunt to beg for my school tuition, until the day I didn't dare buy sanitary pads to save money, and had to steal the thin paper liners from the school restroom, until the day someone accidentally knocked over the little cake the school gave us for Children's Day, and I broke down crying. That's when I understood, true love can't fill your stomach, and it can't keep you alive. True love is a joke. But I never told Philip that. What I told him was that I had given him my whole heart. That because I loved him. I never asked for anything, never made things difficult for him. That because I loved him. I was willing to endure all the other women flitting around him, as long as I could stay by his side. That wasn't exactly a lie. I loved Philip's money, loved his connections. I loved the starlit path he laid before me, the one that let me soar straight to the top. How could that not be love? Philip took great pleasure in being adored by me with such single-minded devotion. I actually found him a little pitiful. If he had ever truly loved someone, or been truly loved by someone, he would have instantly seen that my passionate affection was an act. Because when you truly love someone, how could you ever endure a third person in the picture? Maybe it was because my acting was just that good. Over the years, people came and went in his life. Yet he never replaced me. But now, I'm ready to replace him. Chapter 4. A year ago, I had already realized that what Philip could give me was becoming very limited. I was already a top-tier starlet. There were plenty of resources I could secure without his help, and even some that he couldn't get for himself. But I didn't dump him right away. First, although he couldn't bring me much positive benefit anymore, it would be all too easy for him to sabotage me, and I couldn't afford to make him an enemy. Second, as the devoted little white flower who was madly in love with her sugar daddy, I was supposed to wait until he got tired of me and paid me off, not be the one to initiate the breakup. Otherwise, I'd look too calculating, and what sugar daddy would dare take me in afterward? Third, I was still waiting for Philip to get bored and give me a generous breakup fee. So, I waited for Philip to give me a solid reason to walk away. But for the past year, he seemed to have settled down, no new women at his side. So when I heard he'd given the 2 endorsements and a movie he had promised me to Laura, I let out a long breath. At last, I had my chance to replace him. Chapter 5. I had a beautiful night's sleep and went to the set early the next morning. Halfway through the opening ceremony, Laura finally arrived in her usual, leisurely fashion. Philip was the biggest investor in the drama. As his new favorite, Laura naturally enjoyed the highest-tier treatment, her own nanny van from a 5-star hotel, plus a personal scriptwriter. Several unreasonable added scenes for her were approved by the director without a single objection. Seeing the director's attitude, I naturally kept my distance from Laura, but Laura couldn't resist coming to provoke me. By the 3rd time she used the excuse of filming to push me into the pond. I grabbed her arm and pulled her in with me. Unfortunately, Laura was terrible in the water. While I only ended up with ruined makeup, she genuinely gulped down several mouthfuls of that greenish pond water. As luck would have it, Philip came to visit the set. Laura looked pitifully aggrieved, tears falling non-stop. Philip scooped her up in his arms, gave me a half-smile that wasn't a smile, and said, "Looks like you've grown a temper." I stood in the pond with my head lowered, face pale, looking as pitiful as possible. Philip said, "Apologize to Laura, and I'll let this go." I answered softly, "I did nothing wrong." Philip, embarrassed in front of everyone, lost his patience. "Then stay in the pond. When you've figured it out, you can come out." With that, he left with his entourage. Of course I wasn't going to just stand there like an idiot. I waited until the paparazzi had taken enough shots, then fainted on the spot. Maria rushed over, shouting for people to help send me back to the hotel. By the time I had showered, Maria had already sent out the press release. Young Master Philip defends new flame, old flame turns soaked mess. Chapter 6. I had barely finished blow-drying my hair when my mother called. She asked, "What's going on with you? You've been with Mr. Philip for 5 years. How can you still lose to that little vixen?" I rubbed my temples. "Stay out of it." She grew anxious. "If I don't take care of you, who will? I told you long ago. You need to hurry up and give Mr. Philip a son." so the rest of your life will be secure. I gave a cold laugh. And you gave that man a son. But in the end, you still have to rely on me to support you, don't you? She snapped bitterly. Baby, I'm saying this for your own good. How can you talk to me like that? If you don't take advantage of your youth and beauty to find a man, what will you do when you're old? A sudden heaviness settled over me. All my hard work in acting, all my relentless effort, in her eyes. None of it mattered as much as simply finding a man. She had relied on her looks to gain a few conveniences from men, and so she worshipped them as gods. In the first half of her life, she scraped by on the money a man left behind, raising me and my younger brother with difficulty. In the second half, she hoped I'd find a man to keep supporting our family. She had been a parasitic vine her whole life, and she wanted me to become one too. She didn't encourage me to strive upward, she encouraged me to take the easy, slippery slope. She said if I just let myself slide, I'd end up in a paradise of bliss. But in reality, it's nothing but a mirage, so I will never let myself slide. Chapter 7. My rise to where I am today was, of course, helped by the resources Philip gave me, but it was also because I was diligent, clever, and relentless. That's how I became famous so quickly. Unfortunately, others don't see it that way. Like my mother, they all think I owe it all to Philip, which means that if this relationship ever goes south, I have to make sure I'm the most innocent one, the perfect victim. Only then can I win the full sympathy of public opinion instead of being torn apart by it. Our battlefield has never been a small film set, it's on the keyboards of the masses. But Laura and Philip seem not to understand that. Laura is even gloating over her so-called victory. After that incident, she strutted around the set every day like a victorious rooster, bossing people around. Philip and I, meanwhile, entered our first real Cold War. A few days later, Philip got drunk. His friend called me to pick him up. I simply forwarded the call to Laura. Philip was so furious that he spat out a warning that same night. Tiffany, I'll be waiting for you to beg me. All these years, I had played the role of the love-struck simp so well. Even his friends would say, Philip really has charm. Tiffany is usually so aloof, so many rich young men try to please her, and she doesn't even glance their way. Who knew she's actually Philip's little simp in private? So the moment I let my mask slip, Philip couldn't handle it. If he were smart, he'd realize, when an employee stops caring about the boss's moods, it usually means they're getting ready to jump ship. Chapter 8. After things ended on a sour note with Philip, he doubled down on promoting Laura, even making a high-profile visit to the set to show his support for her. He was forcing me to bow my head. And of course, I would. Only, this would be the last time. I called Philip, but he hung up immediately. Fortunately, patience is something I have in abundance. I sent him WeChat messages one by one, my tone earnest and humble. Philip, don't be angry. Every day we've been in this Cold War, I've cried myself to sleep. My birthday's coming up. Could you come have a bowl of Ao noodles with me? I'd looked into Philip's past before. His mother died young, and his father barely cared for him. He'd been spoiled into uselessness by his stepmother. The only warmth he'd ever known from family came from his late mother. She was from Sucheng, and every year on his birthday, she'd make him a bowl of Ao noodles. So, on the first birthday we spent together, he'd asked me what I wanted. I told him I wanted a bowl of Ao noodles. I told him I'd grown up with my grandmother, that she was from Sucheng, and made me a bowl of Ao noodles every year on my birthday. I was certain Philip wouldn't go digging into where my grandmother, dead for over a decade, had actually been from. Sure enough, he had only reddened his eyes and pulled me into his arms. All right, every year from now on, I'll have Ao noodles with you. So, although it took him a long time to reply with "we'll see," I knew he would come. Chapter 9. On my birthday, the sun was blazing. Laura picked a fight with me again over some trivial matter. This time, I didn't back down. I gave a cold laugh and leaned into whisper so only the two of us could hear. Don't think you're anything without Philip backing you up. Do you know he's coming to set today to celebrate my birthday? Miss Laura, you'd better watch that temper. You're about to fall out of favor. She didn't believe me and called Philip right in front of me. I'm flying over to visit tonight, Philip replied, a touch of impatience in his voice. Maybe it was his tone, but Laura suddenly looked uneasy. She threw me a hateful, "The donkey's death isn't decided yet," and stalked off. I almost told her she should work on her Mandarin. It's the deer's death. Chapter 10. Philip booked a private room and invited the crew to celebrate my birthday. But just before it was time to cut the cake, he disappeared from my side. I glanced at the location tracker on my phone and understood immediately. Half a year ago, when I'd first thought about cutting ties with him, I'd installed a tracking app on his phone. It could be activated from mine, but only once, self-destructing afterwards so he'd never know. I excused myself from the table and followed the signal. It didn't take long to find Philip and Laura in a stairwell. As expected, the infuriated Laura couldn't wait to offer her body to him. The sound of their lips and teeth tangling echoed in the empty space. I took a deep breath, steadying my hands as they trembled with excitement. I slipped my phone through the crack in the door and hit record. They kissed for a while, then Laura was spun around, pressed against the wall, her gown bunched up around her waist. "Philip, isn't it thrilling to do this with me just one wall away from Tiffany?" Laura suddenly glanced back, perfect timing for me to get her full face in HD. "You've already ruined her birthday and still have the nerve to ask that?" Philip teased. "Tell me, am I better, or is she better?" "Shut up and focus, Philip, be gentle," Laura whined. "Who was it that insisted on dragging me in here? You can deal with the pain." A sharp smack landed on her backside. His voice came out hoarse. When Philip finished, I checked the video length. 6 minutes. TSK. Short. I pocketed my phone. Time for my entrance. Chapter 11. When I pushed open the stairwell door, they were still wrapped around each other, kissing. Both of them froze for a moment when they saw me. Then Laura gave me a provocative little smile. "Sorry, Tiffany, for ruining your birthday party." Philip, on the other hand, quickly straightened his clothes, not that he'd taken much off in the first place, and asked, as if nothing had happened, "What are you doing here? Have you cut the cake yet?" My whole body was trembling. I couldn't speak. Tears rolled down my cheeks in big, heavy drops. Seeing how pitiful I looked, Philip gestured for Laura to leave first. Laura shot me a resentful glare, then picked her panties up off the floor. As she left, she cooed to Philip. "Philip, I'll be waiting for you in 802, and then tossed a snide comment my way. "It's not like you're Philip's girlfriend, stop acting like the official wife." When Laura was gone, Philip came over, reaching out to hold me. All right. Stop crying. Haven't had the cake yet, right? I'll go back with you to eat it." I pushed him away. The lingering scent of Laura's perfume and the traces of their recent intimacy clung to him. It was disgusting. He tried to pull me into his arms again. I shoved him away sharply. Before he could get angry, I struck first, choking back sobs. I said, "Philip, how could you treat me like this?" Philip rubbed his temples. "Tiffany, you're the one who said that as long as you could stay by my side, you'd put up with anything. You got along fine with the other women before, didn't you?" I clutched my chest and cried. The reason I could get along with the others wasn't because I could endure more. It was because I loved you more than they did. But how could you trample all over my heart just because you knew how much I cared for you? Maybe it was because I looked so pitiful. But Philip's tone softened. "Tiffany, I really just wanted to celebrate your birthday tonight. It's just that. How about I take you to buy a bag later?" I kept crying. "Come on, don't cry. I won't do it again next time." "There won't be a next time," I said quietly. "What did you say?" Philip raised an eyebrow. I said, "Philip, let's break up." It was rare for Philip to lower himself, but I didn't let him off the hook. His eyes cooled, his voice dropping. "Take back what you just said, and I'll pretend I never heard it." I stayed silent, tears falling as I shook my head with stubborn resolve. Philip's face darkened instantly. He gave a short, cold laugh. "Tiffany, think this through. I never go back to my exes. Once it's over with me, it's over. There's no medicine for regret." I gave a bleak little smile and launched into the lines I had so carefully prepared. "Philip, you probably don't remember. Our first meeting wasn't at that Gießen dinner party, it was even earlier. At an awards ceremony. That night it poured. You gave me an umbrella. And from then on, there was no room in my heart for anyone else. I remembered it clearly. He'd been dressed casually, but the umbrella he handed me was a swain. I'd memorized him on the spot. When we first got together, I thought, as long as I could stay by your side, that would be enough. But over the years, people have come and gone around you, and you never replaced me. You even took me to your birthday gathering with your friends last year, introducing me as your girlfriend. You said it so seriously. I believed you. I thought if I stayed long enough, one day you'd turn around and realize how good I was. But just now, I finally understood it was all my foolish wishful thinking. My love means nothing to you, Philip. I won't ask for it anymore. Thank you for what you've done for me in the past. I wish you all the best in the future. My eyes were red, my voice hoarse as I finished the speech. I almost wanted to applaud myself. This was the highlight of my acting career. Even I almost believed it. Without giving Philip the chance to speak, I turned and ran off in tears. I was afraid if I stayed any longer, I'd burst out laughing. Maybe it was just my imagination, but out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw Philip's eyes turn red. Chapter 12. Oh, I forgot to mention, that day, I'd left my microphone on, which meant the entire conversation between me, Philip, and Laura was broadcast straight to the crew. Somehow, the recording ended up online. My image as a heartbroken yet resilient little white flower won the public sympathy. The hashtag Heartache for Tiffany shot straight to the top of the trending list. Right behind it were hashtag Pure Love Warrior Tiffany, hashtag The Only Pure White Jasmine in Showbiz, hashtag New Flame vs Old Love. The falling into the water incident Laura's company had previously buried also resurfaced. Anonymous netizens began spilling details. I work on the crew, and all I can say is Philip Young Master must be blind. Jasmine is 1,000 times better than you know who. That day she fell into the water. The way she looked at Philip's back, I felt my heart break. I can't believe there's still a pure love warrior like her in this industry. I'm crying. Old fan here, Tiffany's cold and aloof to everyone. But the tenderness in her eyes whenever Philip is mentioned is impossible to fake. When people said she was only with him for resources, I swore she truly loved him. Exactly. You can't hide it when you love someone. If her relationship with Philip is fake, then the world owes Tiffany an Oscar. Years later, will Philip regret it when he realizes no one will ever love him like White Sis did? Y'all are here crying over love, but let me praise her professionalism. On the day she fell in the water, she fainted. The director asked if she needed a day off, and she wiped her tears and said, I can't delay everyone's schedule because of her. Do you know how much that made us nobodies tear up? And as for you know who, setting aside the diva behavior, she's unprofessional, makes our workload heavier. Can confirm, her acting is terrible. She's always NG. Any day she's on set, we're guaranteed overtime. Her face is frozen from all the plastic surgery. How could her acting be good? And she still has the nerve to brand herself as the passionate peony, stepping on White Sis for clout. Public opinion was almost entirely in my favor. And me? At that moment, I was holding a glass of wine on the 57th floor of Marina Bay Sands in Singapore, crying at the glittering CBD skyline. If the director had approved more than 3 days off, I would have flown to Paris to cry, to London to cry, to New York to cry. But Singapore was my pick, not only because I was craving kaya toast, but also because I'd noticed Claude's location was here. Chapter 13. Claude is my next target. A year ago, while scouting for a new sugar daddy, I enrolled in a top business school's EMBA program. Claude, a distinguished alumnus, came to give us a guest lecture on equity investment. I didn't absorb a single word of the content. All my attention was caught by the first slide of his PPT, his personal profile. Even as an outsider, the investment projects he'd led were names I'd heard countless times. When I looked up his net worth, the string of zeros that popped up made me count them several times and still lose track. I glanced down at the zeros on my phone screen, then looked back up at Claude on stage. Suddenly, my face felt hot, my heart pounding like a trapped deer. After all, pure little white flowers like me fall in love at first sight so very easily. I used a question after class as an excuse to add him on WeChat along with everyone else. Then, using the naming style of his WeChat account, I tracked down all his social media profiles and related articles. Soon, I'd located his X account, his Snowball account, and a Weibo alt I was almost certain was his. It took me 3 days to read every interview and article about him, and another 3 days to go through every post on all his social accounts. Later, I learned there's a term for this. It's called due diligence. I think I was born for due diligence. I'd already gathered every scrap of public information I could find. Now it was just a matter of how to use it. Chapter 14. When Claude came back to our school to give another lecture, he left time for questions. I calmly raised a question I had been preparing for 2 months. It was about the famous acquisition deal that had made his name. I pointed out that the acquisition actually had significant loopholes and risks. Men are like this. If you keep flattering them, they won't remember you. But if you point out a flaw, they'll instantly want to debate you. Sure enough, his gaze settled on me with real focus for the first time. My makeup and styling that day had also been carefully planned, all aimed at projecting the image of an intelligent, cultured woman. I've always been good at creating my own unique competitive edge through differentiation. With Philip, for example, the women who truly loved him weren't as beautiful as me. The ones more beautiful than me didn't love him as much as I did. Those who were both beautiful and in love with him weren't as obedient as I was. Now, with Claude, I aimed to be the most beautiful among the cultured, and the most cultured among the beautiful. Claude seemed intrigued and began discussing the issue with me. I had rehearsed my talking points countless times, well-reasoned, but never aggressive. I wrapped it up with, "Of course. I'm sure Mr. Claude must have considered the most extreme scenarios and the cost of failure. That's why I admire the boldness it took for you to burn the ships behind you back then. Such courage made this legend possible." Claude smiled. 2 days later, when we ran into each other again in the VIP airport lounge, he greeted me by name. Opportunities always favor the prepared. That day, the flight happened to be delayed, using the excuse that my newly done nails were too long to tear open a tea bag. I asked Claude to do it for me. We started chatting. From tea, we drifted to travel. From travel to art. From art to philosophy. Every topic that interested him was one I had already researched. So our conversation flowed effortlessly. At the end, Claude said, "I didn't expect an actress to have such a broad knowledge base." I smiled modestly. A good actor always crams knowledge about a character's profession before taking on a role. I clearly saw a flicker of admiration in his eyes. When we boarded, he took the initiative to carry my suitcase. He said, "Next time, don't be so formal. I'm a few years ahead of you. Calling me senior is fine." Who would have thought? The girl who once couldn't even get into a 211 university, now calling a Harvard graduate senior with a straight face. But that wasn't enough. I needed a chance to close the distance between us. So the night my gown was stolen, he was the first person I thought of to ask for help. It was both a show of vulnerability and a test. If he was interested in me, he would definitely come through. Fortunately, I bet right. After the charity gala ended, I called Claude. "Thanks for helping me out tonight, Senior." Claude chuckled on the other end. "So how are you going to thank me?" The corner of my lips curled. "Naturally, with my body." That low note in his voice traveled through the line, making my heart skip. I steadied my tone and said, "A friend of mine is about to open a steakhouse. He's hired a Michelin 3-star team. When it opens, I'll treat you to beef, Senior." Claude laughed softly. "All right, I'll wait until I'm back in the country." Chapter 15. Of course, I wasn't going to foolishly sit around waiting for him. The next day, I joined a new crew. Then, by provoking Laura, I ended my relationship with Philip. The director gave me 3 days off, and I had originally planned to fly to Hainan for a couple of days of sunbathing. But when I saw Claude's location in Singapore, I immediately decided to try my luck there. I hadn't expected that I'd actually run into him. I spent 2 days on the rooftop of Marina Bay Sands, letting the wind wash over me, before finally seeing Claude. When I first met Claude, I'd openly told him I had a boyfriend. The goal was to lower his guard so he wouldn't think I was deliberately approaching him. Now that my breakup had become public knowledge, it was the perfect chance to milk a little sympathy. If a man starts to feel sorry for a woman, the distance to falling for her isn't far. When Claude arrived, there was already a small pile of beer bottles next to me. I still had one in my hand, The November evening breeze wasn't cold, but when Claude took off his suit jacket and draped it over my shoulders, I didn't refuse. That kind of indirect skin-to-skin contact is a tacit intimacy between a man and a woman. I saw him pause for a moment before I spoke. "Oh, Senior, what are you doing here?" Claude smiled. "I heard there's a beauty who's been standing here in the wind for 2 days, so I came to check." I turned my head away, showing him my better side profile. "Don't make fun of me, Senior," Claude asked. "Broke up with your boyfriend?" I tilted my head back and took a couple of swigs, then smiled faintly. "Yeah, guess I made a fool of myself in front of you." When I lifted the bottle again, Claude pressed down on my hand. "If you don't feel like smiling, you don't have to." I froze for a moment, then obediently let my eyes redden. Tears started falling one by one in front of Claude. He opened his arms. "Come here, my shoulder's yours to lean on." I leaned against his chest with restraint, silently shedding tears, trembling as I cried. 10 minutes later, Claude sighed softly into my ear. "Don't cry anymore. You're breaking my heart." I looked up at him through tear-blurred eyes. Claude studied my foolish expression and suddenly let out a quiet laugh. "For someone usually so sharp, how can you be so slow right now?" "Junior, Philip is nothing but a spoiled heir living off his family's fortune. He's not worth so many of your tears. You deserve better." Claude's gaze carried the confidence and certainty of someone in control. I stepped back, not daring to meet his eyes. "Thank you for your comfort, Senior." I'll get going. A pure, flawless white flower like me, of course, wouldn't shatter my persona by jumping into something new right away. Chapter 16. On the morning of the 3rd day, I flew back to China. Claude had probably never met a woman who would leave without saying goodbye. The moment I landed, I got his WeChat message. "Back in the country? Me, Even after a good cry, I still have to come back and keep grinding." I had no intention of moving things along too quickly with Claude. There was no shortage of women eager to warm his bed. I had no interest in becoming one of them. I hadn't spent all this time laying the groundwork just to move from Philip's hothouse straight into Claude's back garden. A few years ago, I attended a gathering with Philip. I saw with my own eyes a director I admired fawning over an investor. And I also saw a senior actress, one who had won multiple Best Actress awards internationally, being pressured to drink over and over again. That was when I suddenly understood, even if I reached the very top of the industry through my own hard work, in the eyes of capital, I would still be nothing more than a plaything. So this time, in getting close to Claude, my ambitions were bigger. If I could leverage that little spark of feeling he had for me, I wanted to see if I could pry open something far more valuable. Maria came to pick me up at the airport. I had just gotten into the car when she couldn't wait to start reporting the past 3 days of public opinion. Laura had initially tried to defend herself, claiming that when she and Mr. Phillips started dating, both parties were single, but Mr. Phillips slapped her down directly in an interview. I raised an eyebrow, signaling her to go on. Maria, a little smug, continued. Mr. Phillip told reporters that he just had a bit of a disagreement with his girlfriend recently, so he asked everyone to give me some space. If people kept digging, he might not be able to win his girlfriend back. The public opinion exploded. It was solid proof Laura was the homewrecker. Now, the mainstream conversation has 2 camps. One is hoping sister stays gloriously single and never looks back. The other is shipping the Philip and sister pairing, waiting for the CEO chasing his wife to the ends of the earth drama. I nodded and pressed further. I want to know my popularity index on all the major charts, my fan growth numbers, and whether there have been any new business offers in the past few days. All at the top. The dramas you starred in before have also seen a sharp rise in viewership. As for new business, a few brands have made some initial contact. By the time Maria finished her report, we had arrived at the filming set. The crew greeted me with sympathetic eyes. A round-faced makeup artist even came over just to tell me, "Hang in there," with a weary face. I thanked everyone and threw myself back into work. The day after I returned, Philip showed up. Of course, he didn't come empty-handed. He brought along a Van Cleef Arpels Ponte Amuro watch. "I remember you once said you really liked this piece. I placed the order with the SA 6 months ago, and it just arrived," Philip said with a smile. Every time Philip came back to me from another woman, he would bring a gift. This time, The Ponte Amuru had a retail price in the 7 figures, not counting the premium from required purchases. When I was 17 or 18, reading romance novels, I never understood why the heroine would refuse diamond rings or jewelry offered by the hero. Now I suddenly understood, when you can afford them yourself, you realize there are things far more important than diamonds and jewels. 3 years ago, with nowhere left to turn, I had been forced to bow my head before Philip and willingly become a flower in his hothouse. For the past 3 years, I had worked myself to the bone, moving seamlessly from one project to the next. It was all for this moment, the moment I could stand tall before Philip and refuse to let him put a price tag on me again. Mr. Philip, no merit, no reward, I replied coolly. Just as I turned to leave, Philip grabbed my arm. Tiffany, this time it's my fault. I've already broken up with Laura. All her scenes in this drama will be cut. You're still the female lead. Actually, he rubbed the bridge of his nose, as if trying to decide how to phrase it. I cut him off. Mr. Philip, your personal affairs don't concern me. If there's nothing else, I'll be going. I walked away quickly. With so many eyes on us, Philip couldn't keep pulling me back. So instead, he called my mother. Chapter 17. On the day filming wrapped, my mother came to the set. I hadn't seen her in 3 years. The moment she saw me, she grabbed my arm. You're coming with me right now to apologize to Mr. Philip. Suppressing the stares from the people around us, I led her back to the car. As soon as we got in, I shook her hand off. Are you out of your mind? Philip cheated first. What would I be apologizing for? She clutched her chest in frustration. It was just a fling. Can't you put up with it? I let out a cold laugh. I've put up with it for 5 years. Isn't that long enough? She paused, then said, well, after all, you only have what you have today because of Mr. Philip. What I have today, I earned myself. Yes, Philip gave me resources, but I still had to be good enough to make use of them. Besides, he's a major shareholder in the company. Half of what I earn ends up in his pocket. He's not losing anything. My mother muttered, but you've been with him for 5 years. You really don't have any feelings for him? I suddenly couldn't hold back. I slammed the thermos in my hand down, my voice low and hard. Feelings? Do you not remember why I got with him in the first place? When I was 22, my mother used the money I'd borrowed from online loan platforms, supposedly for her surgery, to fill the gambling hole my younger brother had dug. She cried and told me, what else can I do? The whole family is counting on your brother. I broke down and shouted at her. Counting on him for what? The one borrowing from loan sharks to pay for your treatment is me. She tried to hug me. Sweetheart, I know I've wronged you. Don't worry about me. I won't treat this illness. I won't become your burden. She said it lightly, but there was no way I could actually abandon her. I knew the entertainment industry was the fastest place to make money, so I plunged in headfirst. But I underestimated its cruelty. At one dinner, when I nearly couldn't protect myself, Philip appeared out of nowhere. He said he could arrange for my mother to see the best thoracic surgeon and have the malignant tumor in her lung removed. He said he could place my gambling-addicted brother in his company, under someone's supervision. I asked, and the price? He smiled pleasantly. No price at all. I just really like you. At that time, with my mother's illness, the debt collectors, and a predatory agency all pressing down on me, I was utterly cornered. I had no choice but to accept Philip's gift. At first, Philip was genuinely good to me, so much so that I started to believe the illusion that we were in love. He would always say to me, Tiffany, with me around, you don't have to work so hard. Sometimes I wavered, right, with Philip there. Why was I freezing in the water until my body went numb? Hanging in a harness until I couldn't straighten my back? Why couldn't I just take it easy? Try leaning on him for once? Before I could figure it out, another woman appeared at Philip's side. When I confronted him, he brushed it off with, just a bit of fun. It hit me like a bucket of ice water. I had always despised how my mother depended on others. Yet I had almost repeated her mistake, walking down the same path she had. From that moment on, I constantly reminded myself, never dream of relying on anyone else. I had to hold my fate in my own hands. From then on, I cut off all feelings for Philip. treating him solely as a stepping stone to change my destiny. In the end, my mother backed down, because I told her, "If you try to persuade me again, I'll cancel your credit card. If you don't believe me, go ahead and see if Philip will give you money to use." You see, I still can't fully control my own fate, but I can already control hers. Chapter 18. After sending my mother away, I threw myself into new work, but it was as if the goddess of fate had suddenly taken a liking to me. A luxury brand I'd never been able to close before skipped the evaluation period entirely and gave me an endorsement deal for their makeup line. Several top magazines invited me to shoot their covers, allowing me to sweep the fashion grand slam. Even a prestigious drama production team I'd never dared dream of working with extended me an olive branch. Opportunities were falling into my lap one after another. Even Maria noticed something was off. She said, "Mr. Philip is really sparing no expense to win Tiffany back." I neither confirmed nor denied it. I didn't think Philip had that kind of pull, not until I ran into Claude at the Phoenix Awards. I had won Best Actress, and Claude was my award presenter. After the ceremony, Claude came to find me. "Does winning the award make you at least a little happier?" I realized instantly, these resources had all been Claude's doing. Half joking, half serious, I asked, "If I said no, would Senior think I was ungrateful?" Claude took a step closer, leaning toward me with a trace of dominance. "Then why don't you just tell me what you want?" I lowered my gaze, took a step back, putting distance between us. "Senior, what do you want? Handing me money and resources like this? Trying to test my price?" Claude clearly hadn't expected me to speak so bluntly. I drew in a breath and lifted my eyes to meet his. "Senior, when I deal with people, it's always heart for heart, but you've treated me like a commodity to be priced. Realizing you've never seen me as an equal, that's what makes me unhappy. It's late. I'll take my leave." With that, I ignored him, turned, and strode away. It wasn't until I was in the car heading back that I began to review my performance. It was a bit of a gamble, admittedly, but if I simply accepted Claude's generosity, we would inevitably end up in another unequal relationship. Once is enough for being a pampered flower in someone's greenhouse. When I got home, I sent Claude a photo, a passage from Jane Eyre. "Do you think, because I am poor, obscure, plain, and little, I am soulless and heartless? You think wrong. I have as much soul as you, and full as much heart, and if God had gifted me with some beauty and much wealth, I should have made it as hard for you to leave me as it is now for me to leave you. It is my spirit that addresses your spirit, just as if both had passed through the grave, and we stood at God's feet, equal as we are." I believed that, with Claude's education, he would understand I was seeking an equal relationship. And besides, I was also subtly flattering him, because in this passage, the woman is speaking to the man she loves. Before long, I received Claude's reply on WeChat. "Junior, I overstepped. Please, give me a chance to make amends." Satisfied, I curled my lips into a smile, stretched lazily, and switched off my phone. Chapter 19. The third time Claude asked me out, I softened my stance and gladly accepted. Sitting in the riverside restaurant he had carefully chosen, I smiled. "By the way, Senior, do you still remember our agreement?" I had once tested the waters by mentioning that I wanted to learn about investing from Claude. Back then, he probably didn't think much of me. He hadn't outright refused, but he'd said it was quite a specialized field. Then, half joking, he added, "If you get a CFA, I'll teach you." I said, "All right. It's a deal." Claude paused for a moment, as if he just recalled that conversation. He looked at me, somewhat incredulous. "You passed?" I nodded, with a touch of restraint. I had looked into it. The CFA really was the best entry point into investment. For the exam, I even studied mock tests on my iPad during breaks between filming scenes. Of course, the moment anyone came over, I would instantly switch back to the script view. That's why my reputation in the crew was stellar. Everyone said Tiffany always used her free time to read scripts, a dedicated actress who could really focus. A pity, though, that she wasn't all that bright. After reading for so long, she still sometimes got her lines wrong. But hard work pays off. She was bound to become a great actress one day. Yes, Hard work pays off. And so I passed all 3 levels smoothly. Claude asked me, "Why are you so eager to learn investing?" I smiled. "I don't want to be an actress for my whole life. What I wanted was to become capital." But that was a sentence I'd never say out loud. Instead, I tilted my head toward Claude. "If I successfully move behind the scenes into investment, will you finally see me as an equal friend, rather than just a pretty vase?" Claude let out a helpless laugh. "We agreed not to dredge up the past. If senior feels guilty, then don't hold back when you teach me. Reading about it is always shallow. I'm diligent and eager to learn." Claude pondered for a while, then nodded in agreement. Chapter 20. With Claude as my mentor. I began looking for projects within the circle to test the waters. Many projects normally wouldn't have been open to me, but with Claude's name as my banner, people were willing to give me a small share, 100,000, a million, just to let me join in for fun. I was extremely cautious. Even for a tiny project of 500,000, I would shamelessly ask Claude to help me vet it. Claude, for his part, was more than happy to teach me step by step. I learned quickly after a few small projects. Our conversations shifted from me asking questions one-sidedly to genuine back-and-forth discussions. The projects I invested in all turned a healthy profit, and I gradually began to build a bit of a name for myself in the circle. My friend with the steakhouse delayed their opening for over half a year, which meant Claude also waited over half a year before finally getting the wagyu I'd promised to treat him to. "I hear several of your projects have started paying out. Everyone's calling you an investment genius." Smiling, I placed a freshly seared slice of wagyu onto his plate. "That's all thanks to having such a good teacher," I flattered. Claude pressed down on my hand. "You know I've never wanted to just be your teacher." I deftly pulled my hand back, lowering my eyes with a sigh. "Senior, give me a little more time." Claude was visibly displeased. Anyone who had gone more than 6 months without getting the person they wanted in bed would be displeased. But I wasn't worried. Big players like him have a Maslow hierarchy of needs a few levels above everyone else's. There are plenty of people who can sleep with Claude, but a beauty who can discuss emotions and ideals with him in such a refined way? Only me. That night when I got home, I sent him a short passage. "I must be a kapok tree by your side, standing together with you in the image of a tree." It was from Shu Ting's to the oak tree. I was hinting that all my efforts were to be worthy of standing as his equal. Claude clearly caught the implication. He then made the connection for me to join an equity fund investing in the entertainment industry. The entry amount was huge, and I hesitated. But if it succeeded, I could essentially reach financial freedom in one step. Claude noticed my hesitation and smiled. "It's fine, I can cover you." I shook my head and declined. "Then what's the difference between that and you just handing me money?" Claude asked. "Do we really have to draw the line so clearly?" I blinked. "Not necessarily. It's just that if it's about money, I have my own way to handle it." Then I suddenly remembered, Philip still owed me money. A severance fee for an old flame. Chapter 21. After Philip and I separated, he had sought me out a few times. He couldn't accept that I had suddenly left him. At first it was gifts and flowers, all kinds of attempts to win me back. When I didn't bite, he switched to suppression, trying to pressure me into returning to him. He couldn't completely dominate the entertainment industry, but he did cause me some trouble. I had never released the video of him entangled with Laura. Originally, I'd thought it better to leave him a line of retreat, but now that Philip had annoyed me, I decided it was time to collect some interest. I had Maria find an entertainment reporter, send them with the video to negotiate with Philip, and split the money 80/20ths. I told Maria, have the reporter say, "You wouldn't want people to find out you only last 6 minutes, right?" Maria gave me a big thumbs up. I named the highest number I could while stepping right on Philip's bottom line. In the end, he agreed. He would never know that the money ended up in my pocket. In his mind, I was still that pure little white flower who had once loved him deeply but was heartbroken by him. Always leave people some room, who knows if we might end up working together again in the future. Chapter 22. I conducted 3 rounds of due diligence on that fund, and with Claude's endorsement, I finally decided to throw all my cash into it. The following year, one of the movies that fund invested in became a box office hit, and I recouped my investment. In the 3rd year, An entertainment company backed by the fund went public in Hong Kong. By the 5th year, I had sold down my shares and achieved complete financial freedom. During this time, Claude and I dated briefly for a year. I wanted to experience what it was like to date a big player like him. In the end, we broke up amicably. It was my idea, because after experiencing it, I realized a big player's flavor is just that. Mainly, they lack a sense of service. Still, Claude seemed to remain somewhat attached to me, often asking me out for a casual drink or dinner. I went if I was in the mood. At the height of my career, I made the switch to behind the scenes. Transforming from an actress into capital, I became a legend in the entertainment industry. Men lined up from my front door all the way to Paris, France. Each one broad-shouldered, narrow-waisted, and double-doored, each speaking more sweetly than the last. I picked one with a honeyed tongue and presented him to my mother, telling her, "Seize joy while you can. Never let your beauty go to waste under the moon." Her lifelong belief crumbled. She no longer lectured me about true love above all or the right man being your only support. When she was wrapped in the arms of a younger man, she finally admitted, a woman should hold her fate tightly in her own hands. Chapter 23. While on vacation, I came across a trending video online. It was a fan edit of my career highlights. At the end, they'd even spliced in a clip from one of Philip's interviews. Philip, eyes full of nostalgia, praised me as the only pure white jasmine. I smiled. It made me think of many years ago, when Claude had asked me what I wanted. Back then, I couldn't say it out loud, couldn't let anyone see my ambition. But now, I could say it without hesitation. I had never wanted to be the delicate little white flower kept in someone's back garden. What I wanted was to be the one who owned the garden, the patron who cultivated the flowers. Story 2. My husband's childhood sweetheart loves freedom and has many hobbies. She does extreme sports, learns classical yoga, and packages herself as a socialite. But she's using my money. That day, when I went to withdraw money, the bank teller told me there were only 26 cents left in the account. That's when I found out that my husband had been using my money to support his childhood sweetheart. I angrily confronted my husband, but he just yelled at me. "Zoe isn't like you. She dreams of having class. And I should support her. Are you insane? Is there anything else in your brain besides money? You're so vulgar." I turned around and left, decisively tearing up the pathology report in my pocket. He's the one who's sick, not me, since he's so determined to support his little sweetheart. Then I won't be treating his cancer either. Chapter 1. This disease is very painful, extremely risky, and the treatment is also very expensive. The doctor looked serious as he delivered the diagnosis. If you don't have much savings, I suggest you carefully consider the treatment options. I broke down in tears. I have money. Please, treat him. I can't lose my husband. My heart raced, and my legs trembled as I walked out of the hospital clutching the medical report. Recently, my company had offered a health checkup package, and I dragged my husband to get a full body examination. When we went to pick up the results, the doctor called me aside and delivered this devastating news. Stumbling to the side of the road, I broke down again. Jonathan and I had been together for 10 years, from campus sweethearts to walking down the aisle. Our love's stronger than gold. Moreover, he's still young. How could I just watch him die? I didn't want to tell him the truth. For one, his career was on the rise, and secondly, I was afraid the stress might worsen his condition. Luckily, I had worked hard and saved up 8 million yuan. I originally planned to buy myself a small duplex, but money can be earned again, while a person, once lost, is gone forever. Jonathan's career was going well, and I didn't want to burden him with this. My plan was to quietly withdraw the money for the treatment, and once things improved, I'd confess everything to him. But when I went to the bank, the teller told me there were only 26 cents left in the account. Impossible. There should be 8 million yuan in that account. You must be mistaken. The teller tried to calm me down and checked the transaction history. Ma'am, the records show there have been large withdrawals from your account over the past 2 years. And just a few days ago, 60,000 yuan was withdrawn. Who took the money? The teller looked troubled. We can't access that information. But perhaps you should consider who knows the password. As soon as I asked, I already knew the answer. I had only told Jonathan the password, trusting him completely as my husband. I never imagined he would spend all the money. I calculated the little money I had left, barely 100,000 yuan. Far from enough for the treatment. The double blow left me feeling dazed. Only one thought filled my mind: what did Jonathan spend all that money on? I couldn't focus on work anymore, so I asked my boss for a day off and drove home. Lying on the bed, my eyes were dry and sore from crying, yet my exhausted body couldn't fall asleep. Where did the money go? How would I pay for the treatment? These two questions swirled endlessly in my head until suddenly, the sound of the door opening interrupted my thoughts. It's lunchtime, and Jonathan usually takes his break at work. So why did he come home today? I could take this chance to ask him about the bank account. Just as I was about to open the door, I heard a woman's voice. Who is that? I stopped my hand. Zoe, let me carry the luggage for you. Don't tire yourself. How was Barcelona? What's your next plan? Zoe? Turns out it's Jonathan's childhood sweetheart. Zoe, we don't interact much. We only met a few times during the wedding period and had a few meals together. I heard she's been traveling the world, constantly flying between home and abroad. She laughed brightly. It was amazing. So interesting. Jonathan, for my next trip, I want to go abroad to learn flower arranging and tea ceremony. Of course. You should experience their culture and improve yourself. I rolled my eyes. Jonathan sure knows how to play the gentleman. Well, let's see. I'm broke right now, so I need money before I can go. Don't worry. With Carolina and me, money is the least of your concerns. I froze. What does this have to do with me? Chapter 2. Jonathan, you're so kind. When I get back, I'll perform a tea ceremony for you. But will Carolina mind? Jonathan casually responded. Her money is my money. What's she going to do about it? I'll just show her what these fists can do. Through the crack in the door, I saw Zoe giggling as she playfully hit Jonathan's arm. From their conversation, I was starting to piece things together. Could it be that Jonathan is using my money to support his childhood sweetheart? Still unsure, I kept watching. Jonathan pulled Zoe to sit on the sofa, and they sat closely together. Zoe, looking excited, started talking about her travels. It was so much fun. I'm thinking of moving there. Girls need to see more of the world so they won't be easily tricked. Jonathan looked at Zoe affectionately, reaching out to pat her head. Zoe blushed and lowered her head shyly. Jonathan, Carolina will get mad if she sees this. Mad? Zoe, you're a modern, independent woman. We're doing nothing wrong. Zoe, to be honest, my ideal wife should be like you, someone who's seen the world, open-minded, and graceful in everything she does. Carolina only thinks about making money all day, as if she's obsessed with it. Zoe playfully covered Jonathan's mouth. Don't say that. Carolina has her own goals. I just want to see more of the world and enrich my life. It won't feel like I've wasted it. Jonathan laughed heartily, showering Zoe with praise. Anger flared inside me as I watched, while Zoe took advantage of the moment, bashfully sharing her travel plans abroad. Jonathan, I met a famous tea ceremony teacher, and her small class registration is closing soon. I want to sign up before it's too late. No problem. How much do you need? Zoe hesitated for a moment. The basic class is 28,000 yuan, but the master class is 48,000. I remembered the nearly empty bank account and wondered where Jonathan planned to get the money. Suddenly, my phone vibrated. It was a WeChat message from Jonathan. Hey, honey, is it bonus time soon? I suddenly recalled that Jonathan had asked me for money several times before, always with various excuses, and I had always transferred it to him without asking questions. Could it be that every time he asked me for money, it was actually for Zoe? But this was my hard-earned money. What right did he have to play the generous one with it? Outside the room, Zoe was still pretending to decline. Jonathan, you've already asked Carolina for so much money. What if she minds? Maybe I should just figure it out myself. I mind! Furious, I threw the door open and stormed into the living room. The two, who had been cozying up together, jumped in surprise and quickly separated. Jonathan glanced at me nervously before rushing to my side, trying to appease me by massaging my shoulders. Honey, why didn't you tell me you were home? I laughed angrily. Why? Do I need to announce it when I come back to my own home? Why didn't you tell me when you brought her over? Embarrassed in front of his childhood sweetheart, Jonathan's expression dropped. He waved his hand dismissively and sat back on the sofa. Zoe isn't a stranger. We grew up together. So this is like her second home too. Hearing that, I pulled out my phone to send a message to a few male childhood friends. Well, I grew up with Oscar and the others. I guess I'll invite them over to hang out. And they can sleep in our room tonight. Jonathan panicked and snatched my phone, quickly saying, "That's not the same." Seeing my dark expression, he smiled apologetically, trying to make amends. Honey, Zoe just got back from abroad. I thought it would be easier to let her settle here for a while. She's leaving again soon, and it's too much trouble for her to go back to her hometown. Chapter 3. Zoe's eyes darted around, and then she covered her face, crying softly. Carolina, if you don't want me here, I'll leave. Please don't be upset with Jonathan because of me. She looked up with teary eyes, casting a glance at Jonathan. After all, I'm just an irrelevant outsider. Zoe slowly started packing her things. Seeing that I wasn't reacting, Jonathan became anxious. He grabbed Zoe's hand and pushed her back onto the sofa. He turned to me with a pleading smile, and I couldn't stand that pathetic look of his. Ignoring Zoe, I dragged him into the bedroom. I started interrogating him. The times you asked me for money, was it all for Zoe? He seemed a bit surprised but quickly admitted, yeah. Zoe was short on cash those times, so I helped her out. Furious, I twisted his ear. Are you an idiot? Don't you know we can't be so reckless with money? What if something happens? Jonathan shrugged indifferently. Everything's been fine so far. Besides, you've got savings, so what's the worry? Mentioning my savings only made me angrier, reminding me of the $1.8 million that had vanished. Jonathan, tell me the truth. What did you do with my money? He tried to deny it, mumbling something about me remembering wrong. It wasn't until I threatened to check the bank surveillance footage that he finally confessed. Jonathan admitted to transferring all $1.8 million yuan. At least I knew the money hadn't been stolen, which was a small relief. Give it back to me. I need it urgently. Jonathan went silent. Seeing his guilty expression, a cold chill ran through me. Could it be? Honey, I can't give it back right now. My world collapsed. The hope I'd been holding on to shattered completely. Jonathan came clean and told me that all the money had been spent on Zoe. Zoe has ambitions. She wants to improve herself, and I support her. She didn't have enough money, so I figured we weren't spending much anyway. So I lent it to her. Suppressing my rage, I asked Jonathan what Zoe had spent the money on. Being cautious, I secretly turned on my phone's recording. Yoga, ballet, classical dance, posture training. I don't really get all that stuff, but Zoe said it was for improving her elegance. And then there was bungee jumping, extreme sports, diving. I don't remember everything, but there must have been more. I was shaking with rage. For someone like me, an ordinary working-class person, these kinds of luxuries were beyond my reach. How could Zoe shamelessly ask Jonathan for money? Unable to control my anger, I stormed into the living room and faced Zoe. She blinked her wide eyes at me, looking innocent. Miss Zoe, the money you've been using for your fun trips, food, and entertainment abroad is all mine. Now, please return it all. Jonathan rushed after me, grabbing my hand to stop me from speaking. Don't scare Zoe. It's not like she won't pay it back. Why are you in such a rush? Am I in a rush? That money was supposed to save his life. Seeing Zoe start to cry, I raised my voice. If you're short on money, figure it out yourself. Don't act clueless and try to take advantage of me. I think you should forget about traveling abroad for now. Pay me back first. Or would you rather I involve the police? At the mention of the police, Zoe hid behind Jonathan. Jonathan, still playing the peacemaker, reached out to grab me again. I dodged his touch, determined to force Zoe out to confront her. Can you stop acting crazy? Jonathan suddenly exploded, grabbing my collar and slapping me across the face. The force of the slap knocked me back 2 steps, and my head hit something, causing stars to appear in my vision. My face burned with pain, my ears were ringing, and the taste of blood filled my mouth. Chapter 4. Zoe came over, pretending to break up the fight, saying not to hit, but secretly pulling me toward Jonathan. After slapping me, Jonathan finally calmed down a bit. He shoved my still-dazed self into the bedroom and closed the door. I'm sorry, honey, I'll explain everything later. Already exhausted from the past few days and now slapped, I felt completely drained, even though I wanted to argue. I didn't have the strength. I drifted off into a deep sleep. When I woke up, Jonathan was sitting by the bed, holding my hand, his eyes full of guilt. He gently wiped my face and suddenly knelt in front of me with a thud. It's all my fault. I was too anxious and lost control. Jonathan slapped himself a few times, and seeing his face turn red so quickly, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness, thinking about the diagnosis. It's fine, I'm okay. Where's Zoe? You need to find a way to get the money back. I'm in a hurry. Helping him up, I felt exhausted. He seriously promised me that Zoe had signed an IOU, and he would make sure she got the money together as soon as possible. Then Jonathan looked at me curiously and asked, Honey, why did you suddenly decide to use that money? I didn't want to tell him the devastating news about the illness, so I hesitated before saying, I'm sick. The doctor said the treatment will cost a lot. He reacted strongly, jumping to his feet. What illness needs that much money? Is it serious? How long will the treatment take? Seeing how worried he was, I felt a little relieved. At least he knew what mattered most. As for Zoe, I didn't want to deal with her anymore. I just hoped she would return the money quickly, and then we could go our separate ways. I briefly told Jonathan about the severity of his condition, and he gasped in shock. He grabbed my hand and once again promised to get the savings back quickly so I could get treated. I smiled and told him not to worry, that the chances of recovery were still high. Using the excuse of going out to buy groceries, I packed up and left the house. I took a taxi straight to my parents' house in the south of the city. As soon as I saw them, I got straight to the point. Jonathan hit me. They were immediately alarmed, pulling me aside to check if I had any more serious injuries. I'm not stupid. 1 minute, Jonathan was hitting me like a madman, and the next, he was acting like nothing had happened, caring for me as if it were all normal. Something felt wrong, but seeing how he acted afterward, I couldn't help but feel a bit soft-hearted. After all, we've been in love for so long, and we're supposed to spend the rest of our lives together. As long as he has no ulterior motives, I naturally hope we can live a good life. After calming my parents, I confessed to them about Jonathan's illness, pancreatic cancer. They were shocked and immediately started searching for information about the disease online. I sat on the couch, feeling restless. Suddenly, my phone buzzed with a notification. Today's surveillance has been automatically saved. I remembered this was a gift from work a while back. I thought it was interesting, so I installed it in the living room but hadn't mentioned it to Jonathan yet. Out of curiosity, I opened the surveillance app and dragged the progress bar to the time of our argument. Zoe, don't worry. We'll just pretend to write an IOU and keep delaying it. I'll help you deal with anything that comes up. Zoe, sniffling, wrote down the IOU and then buried herself in Jonathan's arms. So, they were both acting. I saved that part of the video along with the footage of Jonathan hitting me and exited the app. The main screen showed the current live surveillance. Zoe had returned to my house. Jonathan, his face filled with excitement, picked Zoe up and spun her around. Zoe, Carolina has cancer. Just keep delaying that one. 8 million. There's no money left to treat her. Once she's dead, everything she owns will be ours. It felt like I had fallen into an icy pit, and my entire body went cold. Chapter 5. My phone fell to the floor, and my parents immediately asked what was wrong. With trembling hands, I showed them the surveillance footage. Dad, enraged, smashed his cup. How dare they? My daughter isn't someone to be schemed against. Mom, fuming with anger, was ready to storm over and confront them. In the footage, Jonathan held Zoe and tenderly kissed her forehead. I felt utterly disgusted. But suddenly, a plan formed in my mind. If he's unfaithful, I won't just sit back and take it either. He thinks he can drag things out with the money? I was actually planning to save his life. But if he's unwilling to come clean, that's not my problem. Jonathan, let's see how much longer you can live. Feigning ignorance, I went home with the groceries. Maybe because I was dying, Jonathan no longer felt the need to hide anything. He outright let Zoe move into the house. She lounged on the sofa in a skimpy slip dress, acting more like the lady of the house than I ever did. Honey, Zoe has gained a lot of experience from her travels over the years and built a popular social media account. I figured she could stay here, do some live streams, and quickly turn that into money. Besides, with your health, she can help take care of you. A drama like this, how could I not watch? Zoe thought I was about to lose my temper and had already prepared 2 bags of tears. But instead, I smiled generously and welcomed her to stay with us. Her performance fell flat, and she awkwardly thanked me with a twisted expression. At dinner, I pretended to feel unwell and had Jonathan cook. He was a good cook, but ever since we got married, he always used work as an excuse to avoid the kitchen. Over time, the kitchen had become my sole domain. Zoe, trying to act sweet and helpful, followed him into the kitchen, but soon came out coughing, her face flushed from the smoke. During the meal, I hesitantly spoke up. Honey, I want a divorce. The two of them exchanged a glance, and I saw the joy in both of their eyes. I explained that I was sick and didn't want to be a burden to him while I could still move around. I thought it was best to get divorced now, so I wouldn't weigh him down. Jonathan scolded me for thinking such nonsense, telling me to eat and rest. So, I obediently dropped the subject. After dinner, I said I still felt dizzy and went to bed early. Half an hour later, Jonathan came into the bedroom and softly called my name. Once he was sure I was really asleep, I could hear their excited conversation in the living room. Jonathan, I can't believe she actually brought up divorce on her own. Who would have thought? Well, it's better this way. Once we're divorced, Jonathan will be mine forever. Just my good brother. Jonathan paced back and forth in the room. No, if we get divorced now, we'll have to split the assets with Carolina. That's not worth it. It's better to keep things as they are. Once she's dead, her family's assets will still be mine. I stopped loving her a long time ago. Being in a loveless marriage is torture. They really had the audacity to scheme against my parents now. My parents are still in good health, far more likely to outlive him, who only has a few months left. Through the crack in the door, I saw Jonathan gazing lovingly at Zoe, then opening his arms to her. Zoe smiled shyly. Jonathan, you're so bad, trying to get close to me while your wife is still asleep in the next room. Despite her words, she snuggled into Jonathan's embrace. Zoe, ever since we were young, you've always been like a little sister to me. I don't ask for much. My feelings for you are pure. As long as you're happy and still call me brother, I'll be content. If you ever need anything, I'd give you my heart. I opened the bedroom door and picked up a slipper, throwing it at the two of them. Go on, take your heart out and let me see it. Chapter 6. The house was in chaos. Zoe screamed and hid behind Jonathan, who was drenched in embarrassment, unsure of what to do. After a long pause, he finally blurted out, "Let me explain." They weren't sure how much I had overheard and were afraid to say too much. I put on my best betrayed wife act. Looking as if my heart had been broken, I accept that you have someone else in your heart. I'll step aside. Let's get divorced. Seeing that I didn't mention their plan, Jonathan finally relaxed. He started pouring out sweet words, trying to comfort me, but I interrupted his nonsense by slapping him hard twice, tears streaming down my face. Divorce. And pay me back. We're going to file tomorrow. Embarrassed in front of his childhood sweetheart, his face turned ugly. Realizing I wouldn't listen to reason, he threw out, "If that's how you want it, I can't help it," and stormed out with Zoe. I quickly packed Jonathan's belongings, leaving them piled up by the door, ready to be thrown out as soon as he returned. With those two eyesores gone, I happily lay down on the bed, scrolling through my phone. To my surprise, I stumbled across Zoe's livestream. Jonathan wasn't lying. Over the years, she used my money to polish her image, turning herself into a socialite and indeed building a successful account with a large following. Zoe's nighttime tea party with the princesses. Even the title had a classy, socialite vibe. I clicked in and saw Zoe with minimal makeup, pretending to relax as she lounged on a hotel bed. From the decor, I recognized the hotel. It was a well-rated 5-star hotel, and Jonathan had a membership there. Who booked the room was obvious. Zoe spoke softly to her followers in the live stream, casually recommending several products in her shopping cart within just a few sentences. Whenever I indulge in a late night, I always use my little white bottle for a quick rescue. The next morning, my face still looks fresh and glowing. For all you princesses who stay up late often, you should definitely try it. We deserve to pamper ourselves. Many of her followers rushed to place orders, clearing out the stock in no time. I checked the product details and did some research online. Well, it was an unapproved, uncertified product. How dare she promote this? I started frantically calling Jonathan through video chat. The phone kept ringing in the background of her live stream. Jonathan hung up on me again and again. I messaged him, "Don't forget about the divorce tomorrow." At that moment, Zoe restocked the little white bottle, and it sold out again. We've hit 5,000 orders tonight. Thank you, my lovely princesses, for your support. Jonathan finally messaged me back, "I'm not playing games with you. If you really want a divorce, I'll let you go." Ha, so noble. Isn't it just because Zoe can sell products and make money now, and she's worth more than me? You're just switching to someone more profitable. We agreed on a time to meet at the Civil Affairs office. Then, I logged into Zoe's live stream again under a different account. She was proudly sharing her exotic adventures and all the elite people she met while taking part in her refined hobbies. When I was horseback riding, this purebred pony from the British Royal stable suddenly went wild, and the farm owner's daughter saved me. I gave her a set of the little white bottles. Later, when I returned to China, she was so anxious to get more that she sent me $20,000 to ship her more. Princesses, I've negotiated the price of the little white bottle down just for you, so everyone can enjoy it. Hurry and order now while there's still stock. Once it's gone, I can't promise it'll be restocked. I left a comment. Does it have safety approval? Zoe frowned slightly. These high-end health products are custom-made. If you don't trust it, please feel free to exit. Zoe only caters to quality customers. The next second, I was blocked by the host and kicked out of the live stream. Chapter 7. Luckily, I had already switched accounts and bought a bottle. Zoe wants to profit off women and make dirty money? Not on my watch. We scheduled the divorce for the afternoon. By the time I arrived at the Civil Affairs office, Jonathan and Zoe were already waiting for me. I wore a simple white dress, while Zoe was dressed in bright red, a clear act of provocation. I wore white as if I were mourning Jonathan's upcoming demise. As for Zoe, I couldn't be bothered to guess her motives. The staff informed us that there would be a 1-month cooling-off period for the divorce. A month passed quickly. That morning, I went to the hospital before heading to the Civil Affairs office. Holding the divorce certificate, the three of us stood outside the Civil Affairs office. Jonathan put on a sorrowful face. "Carolina, we're no longer husband and wife. I'm afraid I can't help you with your illness. Please, stay strong." I scoffed. "So, when are you two going to pay back the $1.8 million you owe me?" He averted his eyes. "That's marital property. We need to wait for the lawyer to divide it." "Why are you in such a hurry?" "What a joke. All these years, we've always kept our finances separate. I never touched a cent of Jonathan's money. Now he's claiming that the savings I worked so hard to build are shared property?" I couldn't be bothered to argue and planned to contact a trusted lawyer friend to handle the case for me. I pulled out a beautifully wrapped medical report from my bag and handed it to Jonathan. A little divorce memento. Jonathan didn't take it, but Zoe, with her head held high, snatched it with one hand. She glanced at it with disdain and then tossed it into the trash can. "Sorry, Carolina, but with your illness, we can't accept your gifts. We don't want any bad luck. Also, since you're now divorced, Jonathan is mine alone. If there's nothing else, please don't bother him. Whoever wants that trash can have it." I carefully observed Jonathan's face. Because he didn't follow the doctor's advice and act quickly to control the cancer, he now looked especially frail. His sallow complexion and slightly darkened lips were sickening to me. I wondered how Zoe could still call him brother with a straight face. Seeing me staring at Jonathan, Zoe puffed up and stood protectively in front of him. I smiled. "Take care of yourself." Jonathan also laughed. "Carolina, you're the one who should be careful. If you don't have money for treatment, maybe your parents can sell their house. I don't have any money to lend you. I heard you went to the hospital this morning. What did the doctor say? Is it getting worse?" It was indeed getting worse. I silently recalled what the doctor had told me. This illness already had a low cure rate, and Jonathan hadn't taken timely action. The doctor said that without hospitalization and medication, it was hard to say how much longer he could last. Zoe snickered as well. "Sis, you really shouldn't wear white. It's so unlucky. Someone who could have lived for another month might get sent off early because of you." "Exactly. Don't expect me to mourn for you when you're gone." Unwilling to back down, I snapped back at Jonathan. He laughed loudly, thinking he had hit a nerve, and began mocking me even more. "Carolina, don't talk like that. You should think about your parents. When you're gone, they'll be all alone, and they'll still have to rely on me to take care of them. If you ask me, you might as well forget about that one. 8 million. Consider it my fee for taking care of your parents and managing your estate. I'll make sure to burn extra offerings for you during the holidays." I looked at him quietly, waiting for his words to come back like a boomerang and hit him where it hurt. Maybe the heavens were on my side, because the next second, the unexpected happened. Jonathan, still laughing, suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood and collapsed to the ground. Chapter 8. I was prepared. I called for an ambulance and followed the sobbing Zoe to the hospital. This scene was something I had only imagined when I first learned about Jonathan's illness. Back then, I was genuinely scared, deeply upset. I had rehearsed this moment in my mind 1,000 times, thinking that no matter what, I had to save him and be by his side. Now that it was happening for Raoul, I felt nothing but immense satisfaction. At the hospital, the oncologist took one look at Jonathan on the bed, then glanced at me with a look of disappointment. "Why did you wait so long to bring him in? Look at how serious it is now." I shrugged helplessly. "We're divorced. There's nothing I can do. He's not my responsibility." Zoe's face turned pale, as if she had started to realize something. After a round of emergency treatment, Jonathan slowly regained consciousness. His voice was hoarse, and when he saw the stark white ceiling above him, he bolted upright in shock. "Zoe, what happened to me?" Jonathan's complexion was no better than the ceiling. Zoe stammered, unable to form a response. The doctor pushed the door open and walked in. "Are you not aware of your own condition? You're already in the mid-stages of pancreatic cancer." Jonathan's world collapsed. He kept flipping through the diagnosis report, seemingly unwilling to believe it. But the searing pain in his stomach reminded him that all of this was very real. Jonathan's bloodshot eyes locked onto me. "Why didn't you tell me? Who doesn't know how to play innocent?" I squeezed out some tears and said pitifully, "I didn't want to upset you. I couldn't bear to tell you. I was going to use my savings to help with your treatment. But the money's gone." "Jonathan, didn't you say you'd pay me back soon?" Jonathan was moved by my words. The hateful look in his eyes turned toward Zoe, and she shrank back under his gaze. "Go buy me some food." For the first time, he didn't speak sweetly to her. Instead, his tone was commanding. What surprised me was that Zoe actually obeyed and hurried out the door. I continued to wipe my tears, pretending to be upset, while Jonathan, barely holding himself together, patted my shoulder. "Carolina, I was just momentarily blinded by foolishness and ended up hurting you. After this experience, I've realized that you're the only one who has always been there for me. Can you give me another chance?" I sobbed and replied sadly, "But I don't have the money to save you." "Jonathan, please, just take out your savings." His expression froze. "I only have a few thousand, and it's in a fixed deposit, so I can't withdraw it." "Carolina, I'll get back all the money Zoe spent. Thank you for not abandoning me." Internally, I rolled my eyes. Jonathan's salary is even higher than mine, and since he has no expensive habits, I know he's saved a considerable amount. Now he's playing poor, still trying to make me the sucker, hoping I'll pay for his treatment. Feigning anger, I said, "You gave her the money, and that hurt me. You belittled me and praised her, and that hurt me too. Now we're divorced, and you both owe me money. Why should I help you? If you want to calm me down, you'd better give me my money back first." Hearing this, Jonathan picked up his phone and did something. Moments later, the $1.8 million I was owed was fully restored to my account. Of course, I made sure he noted debt repaid in the transfer memo. Once I had my money back, Jonathan, seeing an opportunity, immediately asked me to go pay the hospital fees. I made an excuse that the doctor was in a meeting and told him I'd go home to make soup for him, finally freeing myself from the hospital. Just as I stepped outside, I ran into Zoe coming back with some takeout. She shot me a vicious glare, silently mouthing the words, "Old woman." I didn't respond and stood outside the hospital room for a moment. The next second, a loud scream rang out. "Jonathan, how dare you transfer my money without permission?" Chapter 9. I went home and slept, naturally not bothering to bring him any soup. When I visited Jonathan the next day, he looked even more worn out, with scratches on his face. It seemed like he and Zoe had a fight, two dogs biting at each other. I asked him, feigning concern, and learned that Jonathan had been helping her manage her live streaming account. The $1.8 million he transferred yesterday had come from Zoe's account. I felt a little thrill of satisfaction. This wasn't my problem. It was their financial dispute now. Besides, I still had the IOU that Zoe had written to me, getting my money back without breaking a sweat. I smiled even more sincerely at Jonathan's jaundiced face. Inwardly, I was already planning which real estate listings I'd check out later. Speaking of Zoe, I suddenly remembered that the little white bottle I'd bought from her live stream had arrived. Once I had it, I sent it to a professional lab for testing. As I suspected, it turned out to be nothing more than toxic supplements. No production license, no safety certificate, and packed with harmful chemicals. The production cost for each bottle was just a few yuan, yet Zoe was selling them for 1,600 yuan a bottle on her live stream. After confirming that Jonathan was aware of this, I handed all the evidence over to the authorities. Meanwhile, online criticism of Zoe had grown, with more and more users speaking out against her. Some had developed rashes, and others even fell into comas after consuming her products. The authorities quickly took notice, and Zoe's live streaming account was promptly shut down. When law enforcement went to arrest her, she was still streaming from a hotel, using Jonathan's membership card, shamelessly promoting the little white bottle. The moment of her arrest was captured on camera and broadcasted live. At the police station, Zoe wasted no time throwing Jonathan under the bus. It turned out that from the very beginning, it was Jonathan who had spotted the business opportunity and contacted the manufacturer of the little white bottles, convincing Zoe to promote them. The more they lied, the more Jonathan and Zoe began to feel justified. Zoe, intoxicated by the flattery of her online followers, lost herself and ended up selling even more aggressively than Jonathan. When the police burst into the hospital room, I was carefully feeding Jonathan porridge. The porridge was scalding hot, made with ingredients he didn't like, but he had no choice but to rely on me now, hoping I'd spend money to save him. So, despite his discomfort, he forced himself to swallow each spoonful, even complimenting me, calling me so kind. Faced with the police's questioning, Jonathan panicked. Like Zoe, the moment he opened his mouth, he shifted the blame onto her. In an attempt to protect herself, Zoe even accused Jonathan of cheating during their marriage. The officer gave me a sympathetic look. "Is it true that you were having an extramarital affair and living illegally with Zoe?" Jonathan, furious, unlocked his phone and pulled up dozens of videos. "It was Zoe who seduced me. I loved my wife. And Zoe, that tramp, ruined my marriage." "Officer, look, here are videos of Zoe getting into bed with me. She's disgusting, using herself to lure people in." Well, that was a complete self-destruction. The police confiscated his phone, adding another charge to Jonathan's list. They glanced at me, sitting quietly in the corner. A female officer approached, gently patting my shoulder. "Ma'am, If you need legal assistance, feel free to contact us. We're already divorced. I was just helping out of kindness, but now, I'm done letting them walk all over me. With teary eyes, I handed over the surveillance footage. Attempted murder, an additional charge. When Jonathan was handcuffed and taken away, he looked at me in disbelief, calling my name the entire way out. I wiped away my tearful expression, smiled victoriously, and waved at him. Enjoy prison life. When I returned home, my parents were waiting for me with a warm, homemade meal. They had planned to use their connections to help me, but it turned out there was no need. Those two had already brought about their own downfall. Seeing the concern in their eyes, I felt a lump in my throat. Don't cry, sweetheart. We bought you a villa to celebrate your new life. After dinner, let's go check it out. I broke into a smile through my tears. Human nature is unpredictable, but a parent's love is something you can always trust. I hugged my parents tightly, laughing with them. A few months later, I had already moved into the villa. Mom came back from grocery shopping, excitedly sharing some gossip with me. Jonathan and Zoe's case had been decided. Zoe was sentenced to more than a decade in prison, while Jonathan, due to his health condition, didn't have to serve his sentence right away. He valued his life more than anything, desperately trying to raise money for treatment, but all his assets were seized, and he had lost his job. They say his condition has worsened. It's only a matter of days now. I clapped my hands and laughed. A scumbag and a wretched woman, truly a match made in heaven. They're no longer my concern. Living a peaceful life with my parents is the happiest and most stable life I could ask for. The end.